If you're ready to snatch your waist, grow your glutes and tone up in the process, then this week of home workouts is for you. It's a 4-day workout split and all of the workouts are dumbbell or body weight only. So I'm going to walk you through the whole thing, and I'll also share some exercise adaptations as well as progressions, making this week of workouts perfect even if you're a beginner. As always, I'll be sharing my top tips and tricks to help you get the best results possible. And this week of workouts is also a great option if you've been thinking about starting the gym but you're not too sure and you want to make that first step. So get this week of workouts down, learn the exercises and how to do them, and then just take the same workouts to the gym. That way you'll already be confident in the workouts and the exercises themselves. You'll just be taking them to a different setting, and that can reduce gym anxiety so much. So make sure you're subscribed and let's jump in. Before we jump in, baddies don't skip their warm-up, so we're going to do some dynamic stretches. We want to be constantly moving throughout these stretches, and that's going to help warm up the muscles, get the blood flowing, improve mobility and range of motion, and help minimize the risk of injury. I feel like the hamstrings are one of the muscle groups that tend to get injured most easily, so since we're focusing mainly on glutes and hamstrings in this workout, we want to make extra sure that they're warmed up properly. Before my dynamic stretches, I'd also usually do 5 minutes of light cardio as part of my warm-up, so if you have a bike or a treadmill available, or it's not raining so you can go run outside, then doing that 5 minutes of light cardio will help reduce your risk of injury even more. First, we're starting off with a compound exercise for the glutes, and that is dumbbell hip thrust. So you want to sit on the floor with your upper back against a bench, a chair, or the sofa, and place the dumbbell across your hips. Your feet should be shoulder width apart and your knees bent at about 90 degrees. As you lift the weight, you're going to brace your core and drive through your heels. Make sure you squeeze your glutes as hard as you can at the top, and aim to reach full hip extension without overarching your back at the top. When you're lowering back down, you want to imagine that your whole upper body is a stiff plank. But if you're overarching your lower back at the bottom of the movement, then that's going to shift some of the emphasis off of your glutes and onto your lower back, making you more susceptible to injury, and you won't get as many glute gains. One of the most important things when it comes to muscle growth is time under tension. All that means is the total amount of time a muscle or muscle group is actively engaged or under load during a set of reps. So in general, if the muscle is experiencing the most tension in the stretched position, that's going to lead to more muscle growth. And a way we can increase the time under tension for any given exercise is just to slow down the reps. So we're doing 4 sets of 12 to 15 reps here, and at the end of your 4th set, you're going to drop the weight and bang out another 12 to 15 reps of purely bodyweight hip thrusts. Next, we're moving on to B stance RDLs, or B stance Romanian deadlifts. If you had a heavier dumbbell that you were using for hip thrusts, now you might want to lighten the weight. I don't have different pairs of dumbbells, so that's why I'm just using the same one, but ideally having a range of weights to choose from will be really helpful in helping you see continuous progress by using progressive overload. So we're going to do 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps here, and to set it up, we're going to hold a dumbbell in each hand, standing with your feet hip width apart. Shift one foot slightly backwards with only your toes touching the ground. B stance RDLs are hip hinge movement, so that means when you're lowering the weight, first you want to think about pushing your hips backwards and then bending your knees and lowering the weight down. Make sure your spine stays in a neutral position and lower the dumbbells down your front leg, keeping them as close to your leg as possible. On the way up, we're going to drive through our front foot, which is our working leg, to return to the standing position. Now this exercise is going to target both the glutes and the hamstrings, but you can bias the glutes or hamstrings a little more depending on how low you go. So if you keep your legs straighter and lower the dumbbells further down your leg, then you're going to end up targeting the hamstrings a bit more. But if you bend your knee more and don't lower the dumbbells as low, then you're going to shift more of the emphasis onto your glutes. A couple of common mistakes that you want to avoid are rounding your back too much, so we don't want to be hunched over the dumbbells, and also relying too much on your back leg. That back leg is only there for stability, and you want most of the work to be coming through your front foot. So once you've done 10 to 12 reps on one leg, you're going to go straight into 10 to 12 reps on the other leg, and then you're going to rest for 60 seconds and then go into your second set. Next up is dumbbell front squat. Now this is going to target your glutes as well as some quads, and we're going to do 3 sets of 12 to 15 reps here. Hold the dumbbells at shoulder height with your elbows pointing forwards and stand with your feet slightly wider than shoulder width apart. As you're squatting down, remember to brace your core and keep your chest up the whole time. You want to lower until your thighs are about parallel to the ground or deeper if your mobility allows for it. We want a slight pause at the bottom, and then on the way up, you're going to drive through your heels, and to keep the tension on your legs, make sure you don't lock your knees out at the top, but instead stop just before lockout, then go straight into the next rep. To help improve the mind to muscle connection with my glutes, I like to stand with my feet pointed outwards about 45 degrees. Another good cue is to think about pushing your knees outwards as you squat to avoid them caving in. Your legs should be starting to feel it by now, but we're going to move on to Bulgarian split squats. I know, 4 exercises in and we're whipping out the Bulgarian split squats, but trust me, you will be feeling it the next day. and you will get more leg gains out of this. So this time we're doing 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps, but it's actually going to be a drop set. So once you've done your 10 to 12 reps, you're going to drop the weight and go straight into 10 to 12 reps of body weight Bulgarian split squats. But then that's only half a set because you got to do the other leg. So you're going to pick up the weight again, do 10 to 12 reps, drop the weight, and do 10 to 12 reps of body weight, and then 90 seconds to 2 minutes rest. So to get in the right position for Bulgarian split squats, you're going to sit on the sofa or bench or whatever you're sitting on, stretch your leg out in front of you, and where your foot falls, that is the position that you want your working leg to be. So from there, you're going to stand up and hold the dumbbells at your sides and place the foot of your stabilizing leg on the surface behind you. Because we want to emphasize the glutes more with this movement, we're going to have a slight bend at the waist. So we're not bending over our back, but we're just hinging our hips. That's going to shift more of the emphasis onto our glutes, as opposed to if we had our torso more straight up, that's going to be a more quad dominant variation of the Bulgarian split squat. In the downwards motion, we're lowering that back knee towards the floor, and then on the way up, we're going to push through that front foot to return to our standing position. Again, we're not locking out our front knee fully at the top, but we're going straight into the next rep. I'm just going to warn you now, by the end of this, your legs may be shaking. Just maybe. Just a little bit. Next, we're going to aim to burn out the glutes with some dumbbell sumo squats. Having a wider stance than the traditional squat is going to shift more of the emphasis onto your glutes, but your quads will still be involved to some extent. So we've got 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps, and you're going to set this exercise up with your feet wider than shoulder width apart and your toes slightly pointed outwards. Hold the dumbbells in front of you with your arms extended and lower into the squat position, keeping your chest up and your knees tracking over your toes. You want to go as deep as your mobility allows you while keeping the tension in your glutes. Push through your heels again to return to standing, and remember, no looking out at the top. I feel like sumo squats are a squat variation that's easier to hit depth with, but as always, it will depend on your lever length. So if you have longer femurs and a shorter torso like me, then you'll likely find it harder to hit depth in squats. So usually what we'll see is we have to lean forwards more to be able to hit that depth. Whereas if you have shorter femurs and a longer torso, you're going to find it pretty easy to hit depth in your squats. I'm envious of you, I'm not going to lie. Now we're moving on to an isolation exercise with the hamstrings, the Nordic hamstring curl. Now this exercise is actually pretty hard, so if you're a beginner, you might want to be a bit careful with this one. So to set it up, you want to kneel on a soft surface with your feet anchored under a sofa, or if you have heavier dumbbells, then you can also anchor your feet under those. We're starting in an upright kneeling position, and you want to engage your hamstrings and slowly lower your torso towards the floor. Aim to use your hamstrings to resist the lowering phase as much as possible, and when you can't control the descent anymore, catch yourself with your hands. It's sort of like a push-up motion. Then when you reach the bottom, like I'm doing here, you're going to shuffle your way back up to the start and do the movement again. We're only going to do 2 sets of 6 to 8 reps here because this is a difficult exercise, but a few key tips to keep in mind are make sure that you're bracing your core throughout the whole movement, and so that you're not collapsing too quickly onto the floor, and also be careful not to arch your lower back too much. And yay, we're done! You've completed the leg day. Your legs are going to be feeling it tomorrow. Let me just put it that way. I'd also recommend doing some static stretches after this workout, very similar to the dynamic ones that we did as part of our warm-up, but static stretches are going to reduce your muscle tightness, aid your recovery, and also help your nervous system relax. As we know, baddies don't skip their warm-up, so before we jump in, we're going to be doing some dynamic stretches. Now for the arm circles, we're going to do one arm at a time, and when you reach the bottom, you're going to rotate your wrist so your palm is facing behind you. And you're going to bring your arm back up in the opposite direction and rotate your wrist again, so when your arm's in front of you, your palm should be facing towards you. Now we're doing a double arm stretch to open up the chest. If you've got a resistance band, you can also do band pull aparts. Then we're going to do a couple more dynamic stretches for the triceps and our back. I also like to do some dynamic kneeling lunges so that I'm warming up my lower body a bit, because we're still going to be using our lower body to some extent to help us stabilize the other exercises that we're doing. For our first exercise, we've got push-ups. Now if you're a beginner, don't worry because I've got some variations for you. But first, to set up the regular push-up, have your hands slightly wider than shoulder width apart and have your fingers facing forwards. You want to engage your core and your glutes to keep your body in a straight line. Keeping everything tight, bend your elbows and lower until your chest nearly touches the floor. Then press through your palms and keep your elbows at about 45 degrees. We're doing 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps here. If you find it too easy, then there's a couple of things you can do. 1, you can put a weight on your back, or 2, you can just increase the reps. Some mistakes to look out for are your hips sagging or lifting too high. Like when you're doing a plank and you're sticking your butt in the air, you don't want that in push-ups either. Also aim to have a full range of motion the whole time and make sure that your elbows aren't flaring out too much. If you can't do a full push-up yet, then I want you to use this progression. First of all, you can try doing push-ups against the wall. I didn't have a spare wall in this room, so I didn't do that. But second, you can get a chair and do some incline push-ups. I'd recommend putting the chair against a wall so that it doesn't move. And just like in regular push-ups, you want to lower until your chest is just about touching the chair, and then push back up. When you're able to get 8 to 12 reps of the incline push-up, then you can progress to push-ups on your knees. It's the exact same idea as regular push-ups, but you're shortening the lever arm, so it means you're going to be pushing up less of your body weight. It also isn't going to require as much core engagement, so the whole movement's going to be a bit easier. Once you can do 8 to 12 reps of push-ups on your knees, then you're going to progress on to negative push-ups. So start in the regular push-up position and lower down. When you reach the bottom, then you're going to go back on your knees and push up from there. Training the negative part of the movement is a really powerful tool that you can use to build up that strength that you're going to need to progress on to the full push-up form. If you find that you're able to do one set of push-ups but then you fatigue and can't do another set, what you can do is do your first set regular push-ups, then for your second set drop to negative push-ups, then for your third set you can drop to push-ups on your knees. This way you're still going to be able to complete all 3 sets, but you're going to take some of the intensity off each time. It's kind of like a drop set. Next we're going to start building some boulder shoulders with 4 sets of 10 to 12 reps of seated shoulder press. If you don't have a chair available that's going to work for you, you can also do this standing or sitting on the floor. Ideally, you want to choose a chair that's pretty solid, so don't sit on the sofa because that's going to be a bit squishy and you'll be a lot less stable that way. So sit on your chair with your feet planted and hold the dumbbells at shoulder height, your palms facing forwards. Press the dumbbells overhead with control and fully extend your arms without looking out your elbows. Keeping that control, you're going to lower the dumbbells until your elbows are about 90 degrees and then push straight back up into the next rep. A few mistakes you want to avoid are arching your lower back too much, letting your elbows flare too wide or bringing them too far in front of you, also rushing through the movement instead of controlling it the whole way. Next up, we've got 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps of floor press. So you're going to lie on the floor with the dumbbells in your hands. You want your palms to be facing towards your feet. Start with the dumbbells around 45 to 90 degrees from your body and push the dumbbells up until your arms are fully extended but without looking out your elbows. At the top, you really want to think about squeezing your chest muscles and then lower the dumbbells slowly until your elbows touch the floor. Make sure you're not bouncing off the floor at the bottom either. We want that constant tension, so we want constant control the whole time. When you're setting up initially, some helpful tips to keep in mind is 1, keep your feet planted, and 2, retract your shoulder blades. So we're almost rolling our shoulders back in such a way that it's going to keep our chest proud throughout the movement, and that's going to help you hopefully engage your chest muscles that bit more. Next up, we've got 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps of overhead tricep extension. Now you can either choose to do this standing or seated. I prefer doing it seated because it's going to be more stable and you might even be able to get more reps out of it. So you're going to grab a dumbbell. If you don't have one heavier dumbbell, then you can use 2 lighter ones. Shuffle forward to the front of your chair and hold the dumbbell in both hands overhead with your arms extended. This is going to be your starting position. So keep your elbows close to your head, pointing forwards, and lower the dumbbell behind your head. And add a slight pause in that bottom stretch position, and then reverse the movement and extend your arms back up without looking out your elbows at the top. Overhead tricep extension is an amazing exercise for the triceps. I even do this when I'm at the gym, and that's because you're getting the most amount of tension in the movement when you're in the most stretched position, so when the dumbbell is most lowered. That makes sense, right? But as we know, 2 of the most important factors for muscle growth is 1, the time that your muscles are under tension for, and 2, the amount of tension that your muscles experience in the most stretched position. So overall, love this exercise, but a few common mistakes to look out for are letting your elbows flare out too much, using too much momentum instead of controlling the movement, and also arching your lower back too much. So make sure that you're engaging your core the whole time. Next, we're heading back to the floor for 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps of floor flies. Now, if you have slightly dodgy shoulders like me, or you are using a heavier weight for floor press, then now you might want to pick a pair of lighter dumbbells because floor flies are going to put a little bit more strain on your shoulders. Floor flies are arguably safer than regular flies that you would do on a bench though, because your range of motion is limited by the floor. Some people will argue that this isn't a good thing because in order to build muscle you want a big stretch on the chest muscles, But honestly, I think that the benefits outweigh the disadvantages, and we've already got some other chest exercises in this workout already. So you're lying on the floor with your knees bent and your feet flat. You want to hold the dumbbells in a neutral grip with a slight bend in your elbows. Slowly lower the dumbbells down to your sides, sort of like you're hugging a barrel, and stop when your elbows lightly touch the floor. When you're bringing the dumbbells back up, try not to think about it as if you're moving them with your hands, but think about squeezing your chest in order to move the dumbbells back together. You also want to keep that slight bend in your elbows the whole time, so when you're at the top, imagine sort of hugging a tree and then slowly opening back up again. As always, make sure that you're not rushing through the reps, but you're controlling the stretch the whole time. To reduce the strain on your shoulders, it's also helpful not to go too wide. Okay, back to triceps. We've got 3 sets of 12 to 15, and I used to hate this exercise, but now I absolutely love it, and it is dumbbell skull crushers. So we're still lying on the floor here. Hold the dumbbells above your chest in a neutral grip with your palms facing together. Angle your arms backwards slightly to create that initial stretch, and then lower the dumbbells towards either side of your head. Now, we don't actually want to be crushing any skulls here, so stop lowering the dumbbells just before you touch your head, and then extend your arms back up to the starting position without locking out your elbows. You want your elbows to stay in a pretty fixed position the whole time, and if you're struggling to control the weight, this is a good sign that you need to lighten it up a bit. So you can either grab a lighter pair of dumbbells or just drop to one dumbbell and hold it on either side. Also make sure that you're not lowering the dumbbells too far away behind your head, because that's going to shift some of the tension off of your triceps. So between each set of all of these exercises, you're going to rest for 60 to 90 seconds before going straight into the next set. And that is push day complete. It is pull day, aka the best day. We're training back, biceps, a little bit of shoulders, and spoiler, I am filming this after I've actually done the workout, but I can tell you it is a very solid session. Let's go warm up. Okay, now that you're nice and warm, first up we have dumbbell pullovers. We're doing 4 sets of 10 to 12 reps, and this is one of my favorite exercises that you can do at home with minimal equipment for the back. Now there's 2 variations of this exercise that you can try out. One is more effective than the other, but let's start with the more basic variation. So you're going to lie on the floor and hold a dumbbell with both hands, your arms extended over your chest. Retract your shoulder blades, and with a slight bend in your elbows, slowly lower the dumbbell behind your head. You want to lower it until you feel a deep stretch in your lats. Pause for a second at the bottom without letting the dumbbell touch the floor, and then engage your lats to bring the dumbbell back over your chest. One of the biggest mistakes I always see with this exercise is bending your elbows too much so that you're feeling it more in your triceps. That becomes a completely different exercise, so you want to keep your elbows pretty fixed and make sure that the movement is coming from your lats. When you get the form down, this exercise is really good for your lats because you get the most tension in the movement in the most stretched position, and that's obviously really important if you want to build muscle. However, we can improve this movement, and this is where variation 2 comes in, and that's when we're going to grab a chair. So instead of lying on the floor, now you're going to lie across the chair, and this is going to allow you to get a bigger range of motion. You also get a deeper stretch. So since we're having that bigger stretch on our lat muscles, we're increasing the intensity of the exercise and also creating a bigger stimulus for muscle growth. This variation will also be slightly harder, so if you're a beginner, I'd recommend starting from the floor and then working your way up. But whichever variation you choose, the main thing I want you to focus on is slowing down the movement and really feeling that stretch, that deep stretch in your lats. We're going to rest for 90 seconds between each set, and then we're moving on to incline curls. Similar to dumbbell pullovers, incline curls are a really great exercise because you get more stretch on the biceps when your arms are behind your body. So grab yourself a chair, and we're doing 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps. The way I like to set this up is shuffle forward to the front of my chair and lean back slightly, so I'm creating that incline like I would have if I was using an incline bench in the gym. You want to keep your core tight and your upper back pressed against the top of the chair. You want to keep your elbows fixed throughout this whole movement. Little pause and squeeze at the top, and then lower back down slowly. Your elbows should be slightly behind your torso and close to your sides throughout this entire exercise, because if you let your elbows drift too far forwards, then that's going to reduce the activation that the long head of your biceps is going to experience. Now we're moving back to back. Arguably, back is one of the harder muscle groups to train if you don't have a lot of equipment, but there are ways around it. So all we need now is a kitchen table, or just any table or desk or whatever. We're going to do inverted rows. We've got 4 sets of 6 to 8 reps here, and you're going to slide yourself under a sturdy table and grip the edge with an overhand grip so your palms are facing away from you. To shift more of the emphasis onto your upper body and to take some of the stabilization aspect out of it, you're going to bend your legs and keep your feet planted. If you want a more challenging variation, you can do the movement with your legs straight. It's just going to require a bit more core engagement. So, keeping your core tight and your upper body in a straight line, pull your chest towards the table and stop just before your chest touches the edge of the table. Squeeze your shoulder blades together at the top, slight pause, and then lower yourself slowly back down until you reach full extension without locking your elbows out. A good cue is to think about pulling the table towards your chest and aim to get your chin over the edge of the table. And another thing to look out for is make sure your hips aren't sagging too much, because that could be a sign that you're not engaging your core enough. If you're someone who wants to be able to do a pull-up in future, then inverted rows are a really good first step, because it will help you build that foundational strength that you need to actually pull your whole body weight up when you have access to something like a pull-up bar further down the line. Because this table is a pretty good height for the next exercise, we're going to move on to single arm rear delt flies. So we're doing 3 sets of 12 to 15 reps, and this is a bit of a harder exercise, so if you have a lighter pair of dumbbells, then now's the time to switch them out. The rear delts are a really tiny muscle in the back of your shoulders, and I feel like they're one of the muscles that actually benefit more from lighter weights, because it allows you to focus more on building that mind to muscle connection compared to if you were to go with heavier weights, because you might not be able to get that full contraction at the top of the movement. So to set it up, place one hand on the top of the table or a chair or whatever you're using, hinge forwards at your hips, keep your spine neutral, and hold a dumbbell in one hand with a slight bend at your elbow. Instead of thinking about pulling the dumbbell upwards, I like to think about it as pushing the dumbbell outwards, because I feel like that helps me engage my rear delts a bit more. Pause at the top, squeeze a little bit, and then lower with control. You want to keep the tension on that rear delt and aim not to let your traps take over. If you do feel that your traps are taking over the movement a bit more, it could be down to a few things. 1, using too much weight, and 2, swinging the dumbbell around a bit, so you might be using too much momentum. You also want to keep the dumbbell at about 90 degrees to your body, so aim not to let it drift too far forwards, because that will shift some of the emphasis off of your rear delts a bit. So once you've done 12 to 15 reps on one side, then you're going to switch hands and go straight into 12 to 15 reps on the other side. Then you're going to rest for 60 seconds, and then you're going to go back into the first side that you started with, and repeat that for 3 sets. Next, we're going back to build some beautiful biceps, and we're going to do 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps of hammer curls. We're going to do the standing to switch things up a bit. So to set it up, you want to stand tall, hold the dumbbells with your palms facing each other in a neutral grip. Keep your elbows close to your torso and curl the dumbbells up slowly. Squeeze at the top and then lower back down with control, and don't lock your elbows out when you get to the bottom. You want to avoid swinging and keep your wrists neutral the whole time. One mistake to look out for is letting your elbows flare out too much, so make sure that they're pretty much pinned to your sides and your upper arms aren't moving too much. And also make sure not to use too much momentum, because this is going to help us increase the time that our muscles are under tension for, therefore leading to more muscle growth. Hammer curls are particularly good at helping us build the thickness of our biceps because of the neutral position that we've got our wrists in. Unlike other bicep exercises, this is going to help us target more of the bicep brachialis, which is a muscle that's found under the long head of your biceps. So it's sort of, as we build it, it helps push out the outer heads of the biceps, therefore making your bicep look wider. You do need to remember though that this isn't going to happen overnight. You need to be using progressive overload and lifting progressively heavier weights over a long period of time to be able to build muscle. And not just your biceps, that goes for literally any muscle that you're trying to grow. Okay, now for one of my favorite exercises that's going to help us build those beautiful capped shoulders, and that is single arm leaning lateral raises. So we're doing 3 sets of 12 to 15 reps here, and you're going to hold on to a sturdy surface, preferably a door frame. I couldn't get the camera in the right angle to film at the door frame, so I'm using a radiator. Might not have been the best idea, but go for a door frame if you've got one there. And holding a dumbbell in the other hand, you're going to lean away from that surface slightly. Similar to the rear delt flies, think about pushing the dumbbell outwards to the side while keeping a slight bend in your elbow. We're going to have a slight pause at the top and then lower with control, keeping constant tension on the delt the whole time. When you're lifting the weight up, try not to shrug your shoulders, because that's going to end up engaging your traps more. You want to keep your shoulders back and down as you push the weight outwards. Another thing to look out for, again, is using too much momentum. you will probably be able to lift a bit heavier than you did for rear delt flies, but you could use the same weight as you did earlier. The reason I like to include that lean as part of our single arm lateral raises is because it increases the range of motion. So leaning away from the wall is going to allow your working arm to move further at the bottom of the movement, giving you a bigger stretch on your delts. Leaning slightly can also help shift some of the load onto your delts more and reduce the unwanted assistance from other muscles like your traps kicking in. This movement also kind of mimics how the resistance curve would look if you're using a cable machine. So it's keeping the tension on your delts throughout the movement, and it can make dumbbell lateral raises more effective even if you're using light weights. So once you've done 3 sets of 12 to 15 reps on both arms, because we don't want to be leaving this workout uneven, we're done! Congratulations, you are now one step closer to achieving a snatched back. We're going to split this full body workout into 2 parts. First, we're going to do all the lower body exercises while you've got the most energy and you're able to put more effort into it. Then we're going to do our upper body exercises, and we're going to finish off with an ab finisher. For our first lower body exercise, we're doing a compound lift for the glutes, and that is B stance hip thrusts. So this is a bit different to your regular hip thrust, because instead of having your feet parallel, we're going to have them in a staggered stance so that you can focus on one glute at a time. For that reason, this exercise is also really great if you don't have access to heavier weights, because you naturally won't have to go as heavy to get a lot out of it. To set up, you're going to sit on the floor with your upper back against a chair or the sofa and place a dumbbell across your hip. Find the right foot position, stretch one leg out in front of you, and the foot on the opposite leg should be in line with your knee. This is going to be your working leg, and then you want your other foot just slightly in front of that one. The foot that's furthest away from the chair or the sofa is only there for support, and you want to be touching the ground with just your heel. Keeping your core tight, drive through your planted foot and squeeze your glutes to the top. Make sure you keep your spine neutral the whole time and avoid arching your lower back at the bottom. To get the most out of this movement, make sure that you're controlling the weight the whole time rather than using momentum. And a little bonus tip, when you're in the top part of your range of motion, think about squeezing the weight up to the final part where you're in full hip extension. The biggest mistake I used to make with this exercise was arching my back way too much when I went down. This was shifting all of the emphasis off of my glutes and onto my lower back. So to help you make sure you're targeting the glutes, imagine your upper body is a stiff plank, and the point where your upper back is touching the sofa or the chair, that is your hinge point. So we're doing 3 sets of 12 to 15 reps, and you're going to go straight from one leg into the other leg. If you need a few seconds rest in between, go for it, but ideally you're doing your set on one leg, straight into the other leg, then you're going to rest for a minute. Next up, we're doing 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps of static lunges. You can choose which muscle group you want to bias more in this exercise. If you want to target the glutes more, then angle your upper body forwards, but if you want to focus on the quads more, then keep your upper body more upright. Lower your back knee towards the ground, keeping your torso either upright or that forward lean depending on which muscle group you want to bias. Press through your front foot to return to a standing position, but don't lock your knee out when you reach the top. We want to keep that constant tension on our quads and our glutes, so aim to stop just before lockout and then go down again into the next rep. We're staying stationary for the entire 10 to 12 reps, and then you're going to go straight into the other leg. One of the most common mistakes to look out for is your front knee sort of caving inward. This could be partly down to balance, but if that happens to you, I want you to consciously think about pushing that knee outward slightly to sort of counteract it throughout the movement. If balance is something you struggle with, it will get better over time as you practice this exercise, but if it's really holding you back at the start, you can always just drop one of the dumbbells and hold on to something to keep yourself stable. For our final leg exercise, we're doing a muscle group that a lot of people tend to skip, and that is calves. So we're doing weighted calf raises, 4 sets of 12 to 15 reps. Holding the dumbbells, you're going to stand with your feet hip width apart, press through the balls of your feet to lift your heels as high as possible. I want you to pause at the top and then slowly lower. To improve this exercise even more, you can go find a set of stairs and do the calf raises on the edge of the step. This is going to allow you to get a much deeper stretch, which can be really beneficial in leading to more muscle hypertrophy. After all 4 sets, you're going to take another minute's break, and now we're heading into the upper body part of our workout. It was actually freezing today, so I decided to grab a pair of joggers and switched up my hairstyle because we're going to be lying on the ground later, and I don't want like my claw clip impaling the back of my head. So for our first upper body exercise, we're hitting back, one of my favorites. We're doing 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps of single arm rows. You're going to grab a chair or a table or anything that will let you get your upper back just about parallel to the ground. The chair I have here was just a tiny bit low for my liking, but we make do with what we've got. So placing one hand on the chair, hold the dumbbell in the other hand with a neutral grip. You want to pull the dumbbell towards your ribcage, keeping your elbow close to your body the whole time. When you're at the top of the movement, squeeze your back as hard as you can with a little pause and then slowly lower back down. At the bottom, I want you to really feel that stretch in your lats. So extend your arm as far as you can without looking out your elbow. Focus on getting that mind to muscle connection with your lat muscles in the bottom, and then reverse the movement and repeat for reps. As always, we're controlling the movement the whole time. One thing to look out for is shrugging your shoulders instead of engaging your lats. So I like to think about it as moving the weight with my elbow rather than pulling it upwards with my wrist. That just helps me connect with my lats a bit more. Also, aim to keep your spine in a neutral position and avoid rotating your torso while you're doing the movement as well. So we're going one side straight into the other side and then rest for a minute and then repeat. Next, we're building those boulder shoulders. We're doing shoulder press. You can either do this standing or seated. I prefer seated. And we're going to do 3 sets of 12 to 15 reps. So to set up this movement, hold the dumbbells at shoulder height with your palms facing forwards or slightly inwards. Keeping your core tight, you're going to press the dumbbells up overhead and avoid arching your lower back. Make sure you're not looking out your elbows at the top, and on the way down, you want to stop the movement when your upper arms are about 90 degrees or just below to your body. Next, you know how much I love an arm superset, so we're doing an arm superset. We've got 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps. For our first exercise, we're doing overhead tricep extension. So to set this up, you're going to hold one dumbbell with both hands behind your head. When you're holding the head of the dumbbell, one hand should cross over the other in sort of a diamond shape, and you're going to lower slowly behind your head until you feel a really deep stretch in your triceps. Pause for a second and then reverse the movement until you reach the top without looking out your elbows when you get there. A couple of mistakes to look out for is 1, your elbows flaring out too much, so make sure you keep them kind of tucked. And the second one, you probably already guessed it, but it's using momentum, so keep it controlled as always. I know you know. You can do the overhead tricep extensions either standing or seated, whichever you prefer. Seated will probably give you a bit more stability, but I'm going to give you that choice so you can make this workout your own. So after you've done your first set of tricep extensions, we're going to go straight into alternating bicep curls. So to set this up, hold the dumbbells at your sides with your palms facing forwards. Curl one dumbbell up while keeping the elbow close to your side. Lower under control and then switch arms. When that opposite arm is kind of resting, make sure that you're not looking out your elbow at the bottom, but you want to keep the tension on your bicep the whole time. I feel like this is one of the exercises where momentum is quite common. So I know you already know this, but I'm going to say it one last time. Slow down the movement because you will get more out of it. One other thing to think about is make sure that your elbows aren't drifting too far forward, so you want to keep them back and keep your chest up the whole time. Okay, now for everyone's favorite part, the ab finisher. So we're going to do 3 rounds of 10 to 20 reps of each of these exercises. I'm going to warn you now, your abs will be burning at the end of it, but trust me, you will thank me later. First up, we're doing flutter kicks. So you're going to lie on your back, your hands under your glutes or by your sides, lift your legs slightly and alternate kicking up and down. You can see why we needed to change the hairstyle now. The biggest mistake that so many people make with this exercise is letting your lower back arch off the ground too much. So the way that you can combat this is engaging your core, like really engaging your core. And the way you do that is think about drawing your belly button towards your spine. It will take a fair bit of practice, but you could try it even without moving your legs. So just lie on the floor and think about drawing your belly button towards your spine. Try and engage your core, get that feeling down, and then add in the flutter kick. If that's not the most comfortable for you, you can also try this flutter kick variation, which is essentially just a seated version. And you don't have to worry about your lower back arching off the ground because your lower back's not on the ground. After you've done your 10 to 20 reps, we're going to go straight into knee tucks. So holding a dumbbell in both hands, you're going to sit on the floor and bring your knees towards your chest and then extend your legs out. If you're not ready for the weighted variation yet, you can drop the dumbbell and put your hands on the ground on either side of your hips and go through the exact same movement by engaging your core to bring your legs in towards your chest. After your 10 to 12 reps, you're going to go straight into leg lowers. So we're going to lie on our backs, our legs extended, lower your legs slowly while keeping your core engaged. This exercise is not one to be rushed. We're going slow here. Your abs are going to be burning, but I want you to control it as much as you can. Then that is the end of round 1. So you're going to rest for 1 minute and then repeat that for 2 more rounds. And congratulations, you've completed the full week of workouts. Now all you need to do is rest up, fuel well, and I'd recommend structuring your workouts like either of these routines to help you optimize your recovery. So no, this was a little bit of a longer video, but I hope you enjoyed that full week of workouts. I appreciate you so much for watching, and let me know what content you want to see in the future. If you did enjoy it, make sure to give this video a like, share with a friend, subscribe. I know a lot of people have been asking about this, but if you want to know what I eat in a week, then you can check out this video next. I love you so much, and I'll see you there.